They're not listening. All right, so when I am squaring something, it's times itself, and I use that button on my calculator next to the 7, the x squared, to do it on my calculator for us. Now, the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So, back in the day, at the beginning of the year, we talked about square rooting. Like if I asked us what the square root of 25 was, the square root of 25 is 5, because a square root undoes squaring, just like addition and subtraction are opposites. Multiplication and division are opposites. Positive and negative are opposites. Squaring and square rooting are opposites. So if I square a number, 5 times 5 is 25. But if I square root a number, the square root of 25 is 5. So like the square root of 64 is what? 8, because 8 times 8 is 64. So the square root of 64 is 8. The square root of 100 is 10, because 10 times 10 is 100, so the square root of 100 is 10. All right, let's see if some of these off our head. What's the square root of 9? The square root of 9. 3. 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. What's the square root of 36? 6, because 6 times 6 is 36. What's the square root of 81? 9. 9, because 9 times 9 is 81. What's the square root of 16? 4. 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. What's the square root of 64? 8, because 8 times 8 is 64. So that's that relationship between squaring and square rooting. And we're going to have to definitely know squaring today, and then a couple problems do have square rooting in there. Also, a little refresh from last week. Last week we talked about diameter and radius. So answer these questions. If the diameter is 30, what is the radius? 15. 15, because radius is half the diameter. If the diameter is 12, what's the radius? 6, because half of 12 is 6. If the diameter is 32, what's the radius? 16, okay? Now backwards. We know that radius, I multiply it by 2 to get diameter. So if the radius is 9, what's diameter? 18. If the radius is 7, diameter is 14. If the radius is 30, what's diameter? 60, okay? We also learned last week about circumference. Circumference is how much around the circle is, okay? So if I say, oh, what's the circumference of the circle? You would find the distance around the circle. And we use the two formulas, pi times diameter, or 2 times pi times radius. Okay? Those are our two formulas that we use. You can use either one of them, depending upon what they gave you. What we're moving in today is area of a circle. Okay? Area of a circle is what covers that circle. So that whole area that is covered. And we're going to learn the formula for that today. All right, so moving into our lesson today. Area of a circle. It's left a little baggie to the left. Straight ahead and for your face, yeah. Okay, so once again, okay, look up here. This outside, the amount that goes around the circle is called the circumference. Okay? Area is going to be what covers that circle. So this yellow part, this is the area. Okay? So big area. So the difference here, circumference only measures the outside of the circle. So it's kind of like the perimeter of that circle. Area is what covers that circle. So like if I said in here, I need to figure out how much carpet to cover this floor. I would find the area of the room to find how much carpet I needed. So area covers it, circumference goes around it. And we're going to skip the rest of that topic. All right, so moving down here, area of a circle. The area of the circle measures the covering, so that's what I was just saying, of a two-dimensional object. So area covers just that coverage. Now, the formula that we're going to use for area, and I need a little bit bigger space here, is area equals pi times radius squared. Pi times radius squared. Now, last week we talked about pi, and pi is what? 3.14, okay? And then we just talked about squared and where we can find the squared button on the calculator. So I would take 3.14 times, and then whatever the radius is, squared, enter. And that would give me the area of that circle. And r squared is just equal to r times r. So we just talked about how squared means times itself. So r squared just means times itself. Is all of that. Okay. So we're going to go into some examples for this. And remember, area formula is pi times r squared. So I always have to know what? The radius. All right, so looking at number 3. They give me this right here. And they tell me that r is 3 inches. So I know that for my formula, I'm going to be finding the area. So I'm going to use pi times r squared. And we are going to fill this in. Now, the next step tells us to plug in the values. So we know that pi is what again? 3.14. And what does it tell us the radius is? 3. 3 squared. Because the formula for area is always the radius squared. So on my calculator, 3.14 times 3 squared, enter. Okay, that's what we're going to do. And we are going to do 2 decimal places unless it tells us different. So everybody, typing that in your calculator. I want to see what you get on your calculator. Use that squared button next to the 7. What? All right, so area equals 28.26. Oh. Now, we are going to label. Does anybody remember the label on area from when you did like area of rectangles? Squared. So the label for this 3 was inches. So this is 28.26 inches squared. Or you could put SQ inches, square inches. Either way. All right, let's look at number 4 together. In the picture on number 4, they're telling us to find area. So I know I'm going to use pi times radius squared. But what do they give me in the picture? Diameter. But wait a second, area formula, I don't use diameter. I need what, Eli? Which would be 5, correct. Because since the diameter is 10, I know half of that gives me my radius. So my radius is 5. Half of 10 is 5. And then now I can plug that in there. So area is pi, so 3.14 times r squared. And we found that to be 5, so 5 squared. Let's use our calculator.
Call on your boy. You never call on me, please.
No, you don't call me either. Come to the back of the class.
Nobody cares for me.
I think you overwhelmed me.
Please.
All right, we'll let Ashton go. 78.5, and that would be squared centimeters. Centimeters squared. Because my label is centimeters squared. All right, you all do number 5. And make sure you fill in all your boxes.
Not even walnut, not even walnut.
All right, so once again, it's asking me for the area. So I'm going to use pi times radius squared. What did they give me in the picture? Which is the radius, so I'm good to go. So 3.14 times 6 squared, and we got 113.04 meters squared. All right, I know there's not a lot of space at the bottom of your paper, but you just write your answer there. I want you to find the area of this. So what is the area of this circle? Just at the very bottom. Shh. Just write your answer on there. No. Guys.
That was loud. Oh, wait, no, don't, I never.
Guys, I really think I've been very nice in asking us to be quiet multiple times. I don't think I need to be that nice again. All right, so here's my first question. So we're all going to go around here. Just going to answer one part of the question. Kingston, in the picture, do they give you diameter or radius? Diameter. So this 22 is the diameter. So Jameson, what am I going to do to that? Make it an 11, because I need to use radius for my formula. So then I'll use that 3.14 times 11 squared, and Cameron, what will I get? 379.94 inches squared. Inches squared.
I'm so good. Then he goes, I should.
All right. All right, so we're going to flip it over, and we're going to do a little bit of application with these problems. Before we get to that, I want to talk about this problem up here. It was one from our scavenger hunt. I know that's wrong one. Right here, this one. It says, the circumference of a merry-go-round was 252.77 feet. What was the radius? So we had to work backwards on that one. That one gave us the circumference, and what did we do with it?
We
divided it by pi to be able to find diameter or radius. That's what I'm going to do on this next one, is we're going to work backwards. Okay, so it says the area of the circle to be given, and we require you to find other parts of the equation, the formula, by solving an equation. So remember, area is pi times radius squared. Okay, so we're going to look at the number 6. It says, use what you know about circles to answer the questions below. A circle has an area of 78.5 square inches. So the area is 78.5. What is the radius? So I'm going to be solving it for radius for R. So I'm going to plug in what I know into my area formula. So Eli, what did they tell me the area was? And then everybody, what do we know pi is?
3.14.
3.14, and that would be times radius squared. I'm leaving the R there because I don't know what radius is. That's what I'm finding. Okay, so now I've got to get the R by itself. So I'm going to have to get rid of the times by 3.14. So just like when we were doing circumference, we're going to divide by 3.14. So that's going to give me R squared equals, and that is 25. Now that is not the answer. Okay, Ron, what do you think the answer is?
I got it.
All right, so let me talk here. The radius squared is 25. So some number times itself made it to be 25. So what number times itself made the 25? 5. So the radius is 5. And that would be 5 inches. Hey guys, remember on that first slide today, we talked about squaring and square rooting and how squaring and square rooting are opposites of each other. So if this number has been squared, because it's telling me this number has been squared, so the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So it's the square root of 25. Okay, I'm going to go down to the very end here and I'm going to make you do one by yourself like that. Okay, so I'm going to say, make sure it comes out nice. Okay, if the area of a circle is 153.86, what is the radius? All right. So right now, be trying to figure out what the radius is. All right, Peyton, what do you think the answer is?
7.
Rowan, what do you think the answer is? What do you think the answer is? All right, what do you think?
7.
All right, Santa. All right, let's see. All right, so the area is this. So the area is 153.86. I'm doing area equals pi times radius squared. So pi times radius squared. So I'll divide by 3.14. And I'll get radius squared. Radius squared equals 49. So what number times itself makes 49? 7. So the square root of 49 is 7. So my radius is 7. And then I didn't even put a label on there. We'll just call it centimeters. Put that centimeter. All right, we're going to go back up. We've got 3 more to do. All right, so the next problem, number 7, is about pizza. So it says a pizza. What shape is a pizza?
Right there.
Okay, a circle. Here's my pizza. It has a diameter of 18. So always draw a picture if you can. So there's my pizza. It has a diameter of 18. And it's going to be cut into 8 pieces, 8 equal pieces. How many square inches is in each slice of pizza? Oh, am I supposed to find circumference or area? And how do you know? Anybody have any ideas? Alexa?
Area?
Because of what word?
Inches.
Yeah.
Square inches.
Square inches. Because of the word. Listen, I know that I'm supposed to be finding area because we know that labels on area are inches squared, centimeter squared, meter squared, square inches, blah, blah, blah. It squares something. So when it asks me for how many square inches, this word right here means the area. So I probably make a note on that. That word means that you're supposed to be finding the area. Well, they gave me diameter, which means I need radius divided diameter by 2, so my radius would be 9. Okay, so let's find the area. So pi times radius squared So 3.14 times 9 squared. Type it in your calculator.
254.5.
Okay. All right. Now, we're going to brainstorm again here. It did not ask me what the area was of the whole pizza. It asked me what the area of one piece of pizza is.
It's divided by 8.
Exactly. And why are you dividing it by 8, not some other number?
Because there are 8 people with pizza.
Exactly, because there's 8 pieces of pizza, Johannesson. And since there's 8 pieces of pizza,
31.79.
I'm going to take the area of the whole pizza. I'm going to divide it by the 8 pieces, and that's where we get our 31.79. Okay, so 31.79, and that would be inches squared. So for one piece of pizza, it's 31.79 inches squared for the area. That's a huge piece.
That's a big boy. Yeah.
All right, I want you all to do number 8 by yourself. Quietly, number 8 by yourselves. Doing number 8 by ourselves.
This song is easier than the Chinese. Give it to her. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, Miss Wilson.
Not better than. Do the gritty.
all right. Hey, look, I'm gonna draw a picture. A circular rug is 8 feet across. What is the area? Well, what's this? Diameter. Do I need diameter? No, I need radius, which is 4.
So then you do 5 times 4 which is 50.
All right. Last one we're doing together. It's an application. A reminder. I don't care if you fill in all these boxes. You can just put your work wherever you want. Okay, as long as you show your work, I'm happy. All right. All right. Two different circular fountains are being considered for an outdoor patio. How many more square feet will the larger fountain occupy? Well, I know that it's asking me for square feet, which means it's asking me to find the area. So I know that area is pi times radius squared. Okay, that's how I know that I'm finding area is because of the square feet. Now, they gave me 2 different fountains. They gave me this one that has a what of 16?
Diameter.
And they gave me this one that has a radius of 9. Well, what is the radius of the 8? Okay, so I want to first find the area of each fountain. So fountain 1, I'm going to take my radius and do area is pi times 8 squared. So I'm finding the area of fountain 1. So 3.14 times 8 squared, that's 200.96. All right, I'm letting you all find the area of fountain 2. We've been writing for a while, and some of us have yet to touch our pencils to our paper. We should be writing this down. All right, so for fountain 2, area is pi times times radius squared, so 3.14 times 9 squared. And we find that the area of the second one is 254.34. Now, I've got to figure out what to do with those. So when I'm looking at the problem, how many more square feet will the larger fountain occupy? So Bella already told me. What am I going to do with those two numbers? Subtract them. Because they're wanting to know how much more area the big one covers than the small one. So I'm going to subtract 254.34 minus the 200.96. And I get 53.38, and that would be square feet. Or feet squared. You can put this out there. Are there any questions about the area formula? What questions do you have about the area formula? All right, I'm going to do one more problem with you. It's like your homework. And I want to make sure that we get all the parts answered.
We have homework. We don't.
Really not.
I go out now.
All right.
Oh, got some water now.
Oh, yeah.
All
right, so.
Hurry up.
Shh. No, I said hold on.
Oh, did you? Hurry up.
All right, so. There are 3 columns to this. There's this one, and then this one. So the first column wants to know what the radius is and what the diameter is of this circle. So Eli, no, just watch. Eli, what's the radius? 9, because I know that 18 divided by 2 is 9, right? And the diameter is 18. All right, now the next, I'm going to be mad if you come up and ask me a question about this in a minute. The next column asks for the circumference. So back up here from last week, you can either do circumference as pi times diameter or 2 times pi times radius. I tend to lean towards pi times diameter because that's only 2 numbers in one spot. So I'm going to do, so make sure you write the formula you're choosing. So I'm going to do pi times diameter. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 18. And Eli, what did you say? 56.52, and that would be inches. And I don't put the squared on circumference because circumference is just a measure around it. And then the last one is area. I know that area formula is pi times radius squared. So I'm going to do 3.14 times what? 9 squared. 254.34, and that one would be inches squared. 5. All right, let me pause this.
I bet